Good morning, everyone. I'm Bill Stoneman. I'm competitions coordinator here for the National Trumpet Competition, and it's my pleasure to welcome you to this warm-up this morning, and in particular to introduce to you my friend, Dr. John Marchiando. John is a professor of trumpet at the University of New Mexico, principal trumpet at the New Mexico Philharmonic. He also is a member and participates in Summit Brass. I first started to work with John around 2011 when we both joined the infamous Tromba Mundi together in that same year. And I'm thrilled for him to be here and spend some time with you today. My time with John, just working as a colleague with him, has been amazing. He's an incredible trumpet player, has some really great ideas about playing the horn, and I know you're going to enjoy your time with him. So let's welcome Dr. John Marchiando.
Thanks, Bill. Good morning, everyone. Thanks to Denny Edelbrock and the entire board of the National Trumpet Competition for inviting me to be here today. I'm thrilled to be here. And, the topic of warm-up, I mean, I guess that's sort of what we're here for, is to sort of discuss and do a warm-up. And that's hard to do in a setting with this many different people who probably all of you have completely different warm-ups. So something I would pick to do for mine is going to be completely foreign to you, and so, and then what you do is different than what he does, and so it's a difficult topic to discuss per se, and do with a whole lot of people. And so what we're going to do today is I'm going to take you through some of the pre-warm-up things that I do with my students at UNM, and to talk about. We do a warm-up class at UNM at 7 a.m. on Tuesdays and Thursdays. So you think 9 a.m. is early, or 11 a.m. for you East Coasters. You think 9 a.m. is early? Well, we do 7 a.m. twice a week, and and it gets the kids out of bed twice a week to really start working. We have to do that early because freshmen have theory at 8, so we have to do it that early. So. Anytime they complain, I go to them and say, okay, just remember, you have to do this 4 years. I have to do this the rest of my life. So I don't want to hear it. So, I have I have a philosophy about warm-up. Why do we warm up? And just, there are no wrong answers here, so go ahead and raise your hand and don't be afraid to speak up, because I'm going to play devil's advocate. Why do we warm up, sorry? Prepare to play. Okay? In what way? Yeah.
Mostly mentally prepare for the performance.
Okay. That's a good answer. You could also meditate on preparing to play. I'm just being devil's advocate. Any other reasons why we warm up? To get the blood flowing. Okay. Good answer. Go take a couple laps. That'll get the blood flowing, won't it? Right?
Maintain healthy chops.
Maintain healthy chops. Okay, yeah, that's a good one too. Why not just, how do you not have healthy chops, I guess is my question on that one. But I don't have a necessary devil's advocate to that one. But maintain healthy chops, well, we could sort of translate that as, okay, well, get them loosened up, right? Loosen up the muscles, right? Right, well, this will loosen them up. We can massage the muscles and get them loosened up in here. That'll also get blood flowing.
Make sure fundamentals are strong.
To make sure fundamentals are strong. So, is that in the warm-up or is that in the practice routine? We'll discuss that later, but that's a good point. Yes, sir. You had your hand up.
Just so I'll enjoy playing.
Just so you'll enjoy playing. That's a good answer. That's a really good answer, actually, because let me tell you why I think we warm up. There's 2 reasons. I think it's 2. I might add a third. We'll see. 2 reasons. The first, in terms of the physical thing, is to get your chops ready for the blow to come. And I don't mean blow. I mean blow. Right? Because let's be honest here. We're taking our lips and we're jamming in between our teeth and a piece of metal. That doesn't feel good. It's never going to feel good. Period. Okay, and so if we pick up our horn, and the first thing we do is something really hard and really high or louder, geez, your chops are shocked into motion. But if I go back to this wall here, if I came and punched this wall really hard, you think it would hurt? Yeah. If I came back here and just started doing this, I'm hitting the wall pretty hard at the end there, and my hand doesn't hurt because I got it used. It was used to the blow that was starting to happen. You ever watch boxers? They'll kind of they'll be hitting themselves in the face to get them ready for that first punch in the match. That's, to me, physically, that's sort of what we're getting the chops ready for, is to just deal with the uncomfortable that's about to come. Okay, that's the first reason. Second reason, and this is the more important reason, and this kind of goes along with what I think you said about the fundamentals, is that we're dialing in our sound right away every day in this warm-up. That, you know, the first notes of the day are the most important notes of the day because they're going to set the tone for how you play for the rest of the day. Okay? And so too many people out there think and use the warm-up as an excuse to sound bad. And I tell my students that that's baloney. You know, we have to take these first notes and really try to make them be great. So I have some pre-trumpet things that I do to sort of help explain the physics of what happens when we play trumpet that I do. And so the first thing I do is talk about a little bit about breathing, which is an important thing. Right? Breathing is, you've heard that all the time. How many of you have heard breathing is the most important thing? Right. It's important. I don't know if it's the most important. I mean, obviously it's a wind instrument, we need wind. But anybody who tells you the answer is air, it's a cop-out. It's a cop-out. Okay, the air isn't the answer. Air could be the answer, but it's not always the answer. What if someone has a really bad embouchure and they're breathing great? Air's not the answer there, is it? So just, I believe the whole thing about air is a bit overstated when it comes to playing trumpet. Now, that doesn't mean we don't use it or there isn't some proper form we have to talk about. I know heresy, right? Everybody's looking at me like I got, horns going on in my head. But here's my thoughts on that. So the first thing that we have to do to get ourselves in a place of playing trumpet well is knowing how to breathe naturally. Not how to breathe naturally. Because guess what? We all do it naturally when we're not thinking about it. You're all sitting there right now breathing perfectly naturally. You're not thinking about it. Well, you just started, so now you're not. But so we don't do that when we go to play trumpet, though, do we? We got all these things that we have to do. Okay, you just got to move your diaphragm, and then you got to stack it on top and do it. Tension city, right? And so what I do, and I'm stealing this just directly from Brass Gym. This is a Brass Gym thing, which is actually a lot of the Arnold Jacobs stuff finally written down. That's Sam Playfian, Patrick Sheridan, their Brass Gym book is pretty much the Arnold Jacobs stuff written down. So something that they talk about is to work on that first breath is to get. We have a couple easy steps we do first. First is to say, wall. Wall. Oh, jeez. You're all worried about looking like nerds in front of your neighbors. You're all musicians. That ship has sailed, okay? All right? Wall. Wall. Take your hand. Get your mouth in that shape. Okay, so what we want to do, I heard several different versions of that. What we're trying to do with this breath is move the breath to here. Okay, we're going to create the suction with our lips, not with our throat. Everybody do that once. I call that the Darth Vader breath. What do you feel when you do that? Tension. When you breathe from here, and this is straight Arnold Jacobs pedagogy, when you breathe from your lips and create the suction here at your lips, then all of a sudden everything else can just relax and do what it's supposed to do naturally. So the reason we put our hand up there is so we can hear that whistle. If you're hearing this, that ain't it. Or you can hear that ain't a whistle. Right? How many feel like that's a great, how many feel that's a great breath? They feel like, oh wow, I'm taking a great big breath. Problem solved, right? Okay, thank you. That's the day. So Here's the next one. Next question. What does your body want to do with that air once you had it all filled up? What does it want to do? Okay, sort of. Let it out, yes. Pushing. That's the, there are some words I want to eliminate from the lexicon of trumpet-dom. Push, buzz, and blow are 3 of them. Because we don't blow, we don't push, we don't buzz. I'll explain myself in a second. Okay, so, but yes, your body wants to release it. That's just what it wants to do. I just used enough air to play trumpet. Literally, I've never really measured my lung capacity. I'm going to guess it's around 6 liters. I'm a big guy, so 6, maybe more. I just moved 6 liters in and out in less than 2 seconds. Did that look difficult? The human body is an amazing thing when it comes to this breathing thing. Yet we screw it all up when we play trumpet. So what we have to do here is take a nice, easy, that good breath in, and then work towards using that kinesthetic memory of release. Okay, we all know what this feels like, to release. What we have to try to do is work to using that release into the trumpet. And this is where the next step of my little pre-trumpet drill comes in. And that is to introduce the resistance of what we're doing. Okay, resistance is a very important word. Okay, because when you release your air out of your lungs, there's no resistance, nice and easy. When we add resistance, what's the first thing we want to do? You said the right word. We want to push against that resistance, right? And that's when we start getting into trouble on the trumpet, because then it starts fighting back, and the embouchure gets really hard and can't vibrate, and then the tension starts being created elsewhere. And so what we're trying to do is do a drill that we can mimic that sense of release. So the first thing I do is that whole thing, and then I pretend, my students and I, we talk about, okay, now let's do that and pretend you're blowing through a big, thick McDonald's straw, or even a boba tea straw. You know those boba tea straws that are really big? Anybody like boba tea? I think it's gross, but so I don't like tapioca. So we're going to take that straw and pretend we're going to blow through that straw. Yeah, one of those. See? Yeah. Everybody try that, and again, release. Don't push against, don't blow. Just feel yourself letting the air out, but pretend you're blowing through a straw. Ready? Right. You've just added a little bit of resistance. Notice you lasted longer than when you didn't add resistance, right? Take your mouthpiece. Let's add the mouthpiece. We're not going to add the embouchure, so put your lips around the mouthpiece on the outside. And just release. How many of you felt that was easy? Yeah, how is it that felt easy when we were blowing through such a small little hole in the mouthpiece? Because you automatically, without thinking, adjusted the flow rate to match what you felt when you released earlier. The body will do that. Okay, so flow rate, that's a fancy word for how much air you're using, right? And I thoroughly believe that trumpet players, pretty much all of us, try to use too much air all the time. And that's what causes tension and causes shrill and bright sounds that nobody wants to hear, blah, 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 or it causes, just problems. Again, that's a pretty small hole. We can't get a lot of air through that. Physics dictates we can't get a lot of air through that. Again, heresy, I know I'm speaking against the gods of trumpet here. But trumpet takes a lot less air than we think. Now, does that mean it doesn't take any? No, of course not. That's what I'm saying. I just think everybody has to find and dial in their flow rate. And it's different for everybody based on equipment, based on lip size, based on lung size, based on whatever. I mean, you've heard this about everything on trumpet. It's individual to everybody. And so this drill I'm doing here helps you find your flow rate. So now the next step we do is we add the embouchure, but don't buzz. Yeah, notice you're lasting longer. Your lung capacity hasn't expanded, but you can last longer because you're using a slower flow rate, right? And so this kinesthetic memory of release is what I feel is very important. So then there's another step here that I do And so this whole process takes about 20 minutes to explain, takes about 2 minutes to do. Okay? And so the next step is I then do some lead pipe buzzing. I'm not anti-mouthpiece buzzing. I just think the lead pipe is a more accurate depiction and easier way to get a buzz happening, or sorry, a vibration happening. I have to be consistent, right? Trying to eliminate the word buzz, I can't use it. So if we go ahead and just try to blow that airstream, okay? So what we're going to do is just try to, again, release through the trumpet with our embouchure. Something interesting happens. I'm not going to try. I'm literally not trying to make a buzz. I'm just releasing air like I did before. Everybody try that one. See if we can get that. That's a G. Most of us, some will be different if you have different lead pipes. Yours will be different. But and if you got the low note, that's just as good. That's fine too. That's fine. Low notes are good. But so what's happening there? Again, were you pushing a lot of air? Were you really trying to blow hard? No, we were just trying to release some air, right? And we created a buzz. And that brings the explanation of the physics behind the buzz. So who can explain the physics of how trumpet works to me? No brave souls want to take a shot at that, okay? All right, so that's okay. So what really is happening in there, and there's proof of this via videos all over the internet and stuff, but is that the lips actually aren't touching when they're creating the vibration. So when we do this, that's actually inaccurate. That's not what happens. I can do that. If I do that in the trumpet, that exact buzz, this is what I sound like. Pretty tight buzz that just doesn't resonate at all. Okay? What's really happening is the lips, while vibrating, never really touch. So they're just doing this thing where they're vibrating, and when we add the correct length of tubing, or a long enough length of tubing to create the standing pressure wave which then pushes back and creates enough resistance that vibration or sound can happen, then sound happens, right? And so that's where the lead pipe comes in. And again, that's why I don't do much mouthpiece buzzing, and I do lead pipe buzzing, because we now have a more sort of natural length of tubing to help with the sound. Again, the trumpet helps with sound. That's its job. It makes the sound. The lips just provide the vibration for it to make the sound, okay? And so again, I'm also not anti-free buzzing. I think it's a good thing for people who might have had an embouchure injury or an embouchure change. If they need to build up some strength in the muscles, I think it can be very valuable. But I don't do it much. I don't teach it much, unless there's an individual who needs it. But and so, to me, what's a more accurate feeling and depiction of what I do in the trumpet is to buzz like this. Much lower buzz. That feels more like the flow rate I would use, the tension I would feel, the resistance I would feel when playing trumpet. This, I can feel all kinds of tension in my chest when I'm doing that. Sorry, I'm hitting my microphone. So this all ties into if we think less about actually buzzing our lips and more about releasing and letting them vibrate on their own, we can free ourselves of one of the greatest worries of all times in trumpet, and that's how my chops feel today, right? We all wake up and say that, right? I hope it's a good day. I hope my chops feel good today. I don't know, I played a lot yesterday, or I didn't play at all yesterday. I never worry about my chops anymore, because that's not, I know it's going to work if I'm doing this all correctly. So let me give you an analogy of what we're doing here to give you a little better visual picture. Again, we're going to use the wall again. Wall is the resistance of the trumpet. I can do one of two things. I can come up to this wall and I can push as hard as I want. It's going nowhere and I'm just getting tired. Or I can do this. I can do this all day. I mean, I suppose eventually my shoulder will get a little tired, but I can do this for a long time. And that's essentially what I'm trying to get when I introduce my students to this concept, get my students to do. It's just, let's lean against it. Let's not push at all, okay? So, after I do this little drill, so again, this takes literally 45 seconds to a minute to do these 3 little drill things here. We then we do that, and then we go into playing. Okay, and so the first step here, and just you can all try this. Let's just everybody play a long tone G to think about that. Okay, what I want you to do is to think about recall the feeling of what it felt like to release through the lead pipe, to release without the horn and stuff like that, and just buzz a G or just play a G on your instruments here. How many felt the difference already? Just a difference in the effort level with which you were playing. Okay, a few of you, good. Yeah, I know it's just a G, that's the whole point, that's easy. So where this transitions now into warm-up is taking those ideas and using them on the horn, and this is where we're going to start doing a little more playing and warming up. So what we do at UNM kind of rotates based on basically what I feel like working on with the kids. And so right now we're doing the Chickowitz flow studies. How many of you do Chickowitz? How many of you do stamp? How many of you do long tones? Some of you got your hands up for all that. I understand that. Great. How many of you do like Vizzuti long tones out of his book? So we have, again, how many of you do Joey Tartell's 4-even sound? All right. So, right. How many of you know Joey Tartell's exercise 4-even sound? How many of you saw Joey Tartell's class at NTC a couple years ago? Anybody? 1, 2, 3. Okay, good. Joey's trumpet famous. So he's going to kill me for that. But I was thinking about, should I go ahead and do some sort of thing where I pass out music and stuff like that, because there might be people who don't know Chickowitz and stuff. And so I'm thinking, and I ran out of time to actually even do anything about it, what I've decided to do today in here is use Joey's exercise, because it's very simple, and you don't need to be a superior ear trainer, have great hearing to sort of know what the exercise is. Because here's the thing, it doesn't matter what you do first thing. It doesn't matter if it's Chickowitz, stamp, Tartell, Vizzuti stuff. It doesn't matter. It's about finding something that you like and you can really right away dial in your sound, okay? And try to find your sound. How many of you know your sound? Yeah, the ones that do are bashful. I do. Yeah, it's okay if you know. Good. Yeah. If you haven't found your sound yet, that's what this is all about. You got to find yours. Okay. It might be based on someone else's. My hero through college was Phil Smith. I was obsessed with sounding like Phil Smith. Obsessed. Everything I did all day, every day was trying to find myself. Playing Clark's. How would Phil play him? Schlossberg, how would Phil Smith play this? And you have to become consumed with that. You have to be like, I have to sound like this person. And you know what? If someone comes up to you and says, hey, you sound like Phil Smith, is that a bad thing? No one said that to me yet, so I'm still working. So Joey's exercise is very, very simple. It's great for a group like this because it's very simple, and it involves, call and respond, if you will. So why don't everybody stand up? I feel better now. We do our warm-up class with everybody standing up. Am I going to block the cameras? No? Okay, we're good. All right. So, and the reason for that is because we can get, a better posture with standing up quicker, because better posture with standing up just requires you to put your feet underneath your shoulders a bit, and to keep your chest, your thorax off your abdomen. As long as you do that, you're okay with posture standing up. Sitting down requires a few extra steps because you got to scoot forward in a chair and blah, blah, blah. Standing up is just more natural, good posture. So let's start with the exercise, and let's think about that good breath Let's think about trying to find the release point where it feels like you're releasing through the trumpet and you're not pushing against your resistance, you're just leaning against it. And let's see what we got. Okay, so I'll play, you play. This is call and response. Here we go. This is very simple. So it's at this point that with my class we would go down and continue down in the pedals. Now pedal tones are not for everybody. There's some people who are just going to struggle with them based on how their embouchure's set up, their teeth structure, jaw structure, lip structure, whatever. So, but I like pedal tones because it forces me to, pedal tones won't work if there's either too much tension in the lips, or if you're overblowing, or if you're underblowing. They just won't work. It helps you find the balance of the pressures within the trumpet and outside the trumpet in terms of your flow rate. And it's also just a good it's just good work for your chops too, you know. But some people just are always going to struggle with them, and that's fine. I have a couple students who just can't do them based on their embouchure, and that's fine. So we do it anyways. We try to do you know, pedal tones, and I do this whether we're doing Chickowitz or whether we're doing Stamp or this Tartell. We go on and do some pedal tones. So that easy, right? How many felt that was easy? That's the whole point. That's why we do something long tone-ish in the warm-up, because it's easy. So we can try to sound our best. And I feel there are too many people out there who use the warm-up as an excuse to just say, well, I'm just warming up, I don't need to sound good. No, wrong. Wrong. You need to get dialed in with the warm-up. Now, how many of you feel warmed up? Yeah, I do. Well, I know you're warmed up. You just competed. I'm warmed up. I'm ready to go. How many of you feel you need like 20 minutes to warm up? How many of you feel you need a half hour to warm up? How many of you feel you need 45 minutes to warm up? Hour? Hour and a half? Okay. Well, are you truly warming up for an hour and a half, or are you practicing for an hour and a half?
Lost and stuck.
Okay, let's talk after class. So, well, and that's the thing, is that, and we need to define, in my mind, define the difference between warming up and doing a routine or practicing. Now, again, warm up is practicing, period. It's practicing. You're practicing sounding good. So the second you put the horn to your face in a non-public situation, you're practicing. It doesn't matter that it's a warm-up or a long tone exercise or anything like that. So just place a higher premium on trying to sound like you're performing even in your warm-up. Because it's easy on that kind of exercise, isn't it? Simple. Gosh, half notes and whole notes. What's hard about that? So, okay, so that's the first half of that exercise. Let me just, explain the exercise, and its title is called For Even Sound. Okay, and I can't believe I'm about to say this because it's going to go on video and Joey's probably going to see it, but it's pretty genius. Joey, it's genius though, because that's what we're trying to do with this exercise. Okay, rather than thinking about all the things we could think about with breathing, blah 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 blah. And I know I just talked a lot about that. The goal of the exercise is to make every note sound the same. And if you can start doing that in the registers going down and up, and we're going to do the one going up here shortly, we start to find that there's really no notes that are really all that high if we can all just work on trying to make them all sound the same. And the difference between a C in the staff and a C on top of the staff is really much different than we think. It's not as big as we think. So as Joey would always say, there are no high notes. They're all right there in front of you. He's kind of right. So let's try doing this and add, I know it's a little hard with 40, 50, whatever, how many people are here, trumpet players playing with you to sort of gauge how you actually sound. But you can sort of, when you're feeling like you're in the resonant center of your sound. You can feel it, right? You feel you're in the sweet spot. That's what we're striving for here. But when you're in your practice room by yourself, get the ear engaged, okay? And really take stock of what it truly sounds like. Am I resonating as fully as I can? Because this is simple. So let's go in the high range now. 4 even sounds. So what we're doing here is now as we start to ascend into the high ranges, we're going to try and make every note have the same sound. That is the goal of what we're going to do right now. Okay? Don't worry about, your breath or your chops or whatever. Let's just try to make every note have the same exact color of sound as we go higher. Here we go. Okay, so how many people are sort of approaching the top of their range? You know, C is kind of the top. Okay. All right. I see a couple hands, but I don't see that many. That's great. Let's keep going then. Now, here's the thing about this exercise. Do it until you fail. So if you can't go much higher, you're done for the day on this, okay? That's okay. You're done. The rest of us are going to keep going for a while here, okay? Sorry. We'll stop there. I'm not going to turn this into a contest. But so the exercise is actually written up to the high double G, right? And if you can go further, you go further. The whole point is so. Now, how many felt as you were approaching the top of your range that you were still making a good sound? Okay, so not everybody. That again, we have to always bring that into the equation here. You have to pay attention to how you actually sound when you're doing these kind of exercises. Now, this exercise doubles as a range exercise. The secret to playing high is
Playing low.
sure, right. Everybody has an opinion. Here's mine. To learn, the only way you're going to learn to play high is to actually do it every day. How many of you practice high notes every day? Yep, see, not everybody. Ask any high note person. John Faddis, Mike Williams, what's his face, that Bergeron guy? Wayne Bergeron. Ask any of those people how they learned to play high, and they'll tell you, I had to practice it every day. Okay? It doesn't, this is a great way to do it, or pull out the back of the Yarbin's book and play the art of the song, or whatever it's called back there, the little tunes in back, art of the phrase, that's what it's called, and play those up an octave. Play Clark's up an octave. I know he only wrote to C on Clark 2, but what's stopping you from going higher? Why not? So you got to do it every day. If you don't do it every day, you're not going to get better at it. And so an exercise like this is very simple to do as a range exercise. You can isolate just this exercise for the 5 minutes it takes you to do it, and practice high, or you can do it as part of your warm up. You can do it as your long tone exercises, whatever. When I do Chickowitz, I do the same thing. I extend beyond what Mr. Chickowitz wrote, and I'll do some of the exercises that he wrote up to high D, I believe. It's the highest note he wrote in his exercises. So I'll play up to the high G. I'll do a couple easy ones first, but then I'll go and I'll play up into that range every day. And it's no secret that that's the only way you're going to learn to play high. You got to figure out how you do it. Then once you've figured out how you do it, if you need help to make it better or stronger, then you can go to teachers and say, all right, how can I make it better? Okay, but there's no, I wish I could say I'm a great high note teacher. I'm not. I'll tell you how to play what I do when I play high, and I'll tell you how to make a great sound and everything like that. And then now do that in high range. It's some common sense there with that, though. So that's what. So now, how many of you now feel like you're warmed up? Most of you? Okay, good. It's at this point where I think warm-up ends. And either routine or practice or whatever you want to call it starts happening. Okay? I know some people who will, like we've talked about, there's a couple of you who need a longer time. I used to be one of those guys who needed like an hour and a half. If I didn't get my hour and a half of face time before I did anything else that day, I was worthless. Couldn't play. And then I learned the hard way that, in the real world, you don't get that hour and a half. Because of traffic, you only got there 20 minutes ahead of time. And you've got to sit down and play a Mahler symphony. And you get 20 minutes of warm-up. It's not that you need an hour and a half here. It's that you need an hour and a half here. And you need to get that part changed. Okay? And so I have several different lengths and versions of a routine that I do every day. And it changes a lot. I used to do the same routine for years and years and years and years and years. I did 15 years I was doing the same routine. And then one day I realized I was sitting there doing my routine, I was at home and I was watching ESPN, and I realized I am in no way engaged with my trumpet right now. I'm playing it, I am not, I'm watching ESPN, I'm watching Michigan football or something stupid like that, and I'm not aware of what I'm doing on trumpet. And I thought, that's not a good thing. And so I started changing up my routine. And so for a while then, like about every 6 months, I would change it. I'd change the long tone exercise. I would change the Clark study I'm doing. I would change the Schlossbergs I'm doing. Now I'm even changing it more. I'm changing it weekly. I'm going back to my roots, how Gatala taught me. I went to Michigan and studied with Armando Gatala. And he would give all his undergrads, you'd get weekly assignments that included some long tones, some Schlossberg, some Clarks, Nagel speed studies, transposition, articulation. And then when you got good enough, you got some of the exercises that Gatala wrote himself, things like that, and they got all progressively harder. And then once you could play out of the Schlossberg book, you moved into a different book. And once you could play everything out of the speed studies, you went to a different thing like that. Once you could play Clark 2, you played Clark 3, things like that. And you moved on. Some of those exercises took a week to master. Some of the things like Clark's took a semester. But the whole point is that you were constantly working on mastering new things. That's what practice is. Practice isn't just hammering the same old thing every day. Okay? There's something to be said for that. There's something to be said for the fact that you can sit down at any time and play Clark 3 and nail it. Great. That's fantastic. But I think the art of mastering things all the time needs to continue. That's what keeps it interesting. So I've kind of gone back to my roots with that, and all my students, I'm kind of amazed with how all my students are progressing this semester at UNM, because I've started doing that weekly assignment thing. I'm like checking it off in their book. I'm writing in their book like Mr. Gatala wrote in mine. And I think that's an important thing. So, like I said, it's at this point that I think warm-up ends. Now, if I get to this point and I'm still feeling kind of crappy, like I had a hard concert the night before, or I practiced really hard the day before, I might do some more long tones just to continue to work on getting things to feel and sound a little better. But it's not about how it feels per se, it's really about how it sounds. And that's what I'm gauging everything on with these long tone exercises, is I'm trying to dial in my sound right away, okay? So when you do your warm-up again, either later today or tomorrow, change what your focus is. Rather than thinking so much about what your chops are going to be like, dial into what's coming out the bell, okay? Dial in what's coming out the bell. And try to find your sound every day in that long tone type exercise, okay? And then what you do to practice, your teachers or your colleagues or what you were taught or are being taught, I'm sure is all valid and good. Again, it doesn't matter what. There is no perfect exercise. There is no perfect warm-up long tone exercise. They're all great. That's the beauty now, is that we have variety. How many thousands of etude books, or not etude books, method books are there out there now? If you get bored with Chickowitz, guess what? You can probably find something else. If you get bored with Clark's, Tony Plogue wrote a whole series of books full of technical exercises. Alan Vizzuti has some great technical type exercises in his books as well. If you get bored with Clark's, there's tons of stuff out there. This practice thing doesn't ever have to get boring. I love to practice fundamentals now. Ever since I've started changing it up again, like I was taught, because it's like I get to play my trumpet and do new things every day, And so I can't stress enough how important I think it is to not let yourself just warm up haphazardly. Sometimes we got to do a quick warm up, like I said, because of real life instances. We show up and there's 2 minutes till downbeat of rehearsal, and you got to do something quick to warm up. And so, but even then, you can take 2 minutes of focused time and just do something easy to find your sound, okay, and get past what it feels like here chop-wise. So for me, I'm dialing in my flow rate. I'm dialing in the comfort of the breath, the flow rate, and release through the horn rather than pushing the horn in these long tone exercises. And then I'm gauging how that sounds when I feel like I'm doing that correctly. And then eventually I no longer had to think about what I was doing here and here because I could hear it here. So I don't think about breathing anymore. I don't think about flow rates because I know if I'm hearing the sound that I know I can make come out of here, I'm probably doing all those things right. And so that's the end game of all this stuff you're practicing and learning as trumpet players, is to be able to just say, you know what, I know I can do that. Probably playing trumpet right, because it sounds pretty good. I think anyways, I don't know. So, and when you get to that point where you can just envision what you want and put it out there, that's when it gets really fun. And that's what all the professionals have done. They've gotten to a place, they've gotten past all the technical things. Doesn't mean they don't practice it, doesn't mean they didn't have to, they had to. But they've gotten to the point where they trust the skills and they trust that they can do a 5-minute warm-up, get their sound, and go, boom, there it is. And it's incredibly freeing when we get to that point, when you stop thinking about technique. And so there's an end game to all this stuff you're practicing, all the technique, all the warm-up things, all that stuff. That's the end game is, what does it sound like? And we forget that, don't we? What do we actually sound like? Well, I'm pretty sure I'm doing it correct. Yeah, but how does it sound? Nowadays, we have microphones in our phones and on our watches and things like that. We can record ourselves. You should be doing that every day. I mean, it used to be when I was in college, you had to spend several hundred, if not $1,000 on a microphone and a recording console and stuff. Now you can buy Zooms for, a few $100s, like an H2 or whatever they're called now. I mean, and get digital quality recording, like really high quality recording. If you want to spend more money and get ribbon mics and things like that, great, God bless you. That's fantastic. But, or you can even buy really good quality microphones that hook into your iPhone, so at least you get a better sound than, because the iPhone or whatever mics, those don't sound good. But it's inexcusable almost nowadays for you to not be recording yourself to hear how you truly sound. So get in the habit of doing that. So, real quick here, are there any questions? Yes, sir.
Using breath attacks.
Yes. Yes.
I think that helps with the responsiveness right off the bat.
I agree, and I will randomly just every day, in warm-up classes, just say, okay, today's breath attack day. Everybody do breath attacks. I will do it in and out. You know, like some day. Honestly, on days where I feel like I'm a little tight, that's when I do breath attacks. You know, I get the tongue out of the equation. You know, because the biggest enemy. Yeah, you can all sit down. Sorry, I don't mean to keep you standing. You know, but the biggest enemy in efficiency is the tongue. We're trumpet players, and for some reason we get really attached to our own tongues, because, well, we are attached to them, I suppose. But so, that has very little to do, at least with the attack or the start of the note. The tongue has very little to do with that. It's all about immediacy of sound. Now, where the tongue's more important role is in its shape in the oral cavity, to help with resonance and projection. You know, but the actual articulation part of it is much less interfering than we think. So, any other questions? None at all. Yes, sir.
When you just real quick, when you played the low F sharp down to the low F pedal F, it sounded like just another note. Where when I try to go down the pedals, it drops to this fluttery noise. Any thoughts on that?
Yeah, well,
on the practice board?
Yes, that's the easy answer. No. Yes. Pedal tones, you know, and again, I was introduced to pedal tones by Dave Hickman, and he gave the simplest advice to me about doing them, is that when you play pedal tones, you should be trying to keep as similar an embouchure as you can to your normal embouchure. Okay, we should not be trying to change the embouchure at all. And that honestly is the thing that most people kind of don't do when they play pedal tones, you know. So, but another way to sort of get that low F to really feel and find a slot, do the slide thing. Put your slides out and play an F sharp. I mean, the horn has a built-in F. Now, the reason I did first valve without the slides is because I want to be working on that sort of pedal embouchure. And for me, the biggest difference when I start going to pedals is nothing I do here, but you'll notice that the pivot I use changed quite a bit. And to me, that's sort of what really is changing when we go from low to high. Is the pivot changes. Everybody has a certain amount of pivot they do. There are some few select trumpet players who don't pivot at all, or at least they don't visually pivot, but we all have a certain amount of pivot we do. And so for the low range, and because I have this gigantic underbite, you can see it's pretty pronounced when I go to play pedal tones, my pivot, you know. And so that's the biggest thing that changed for me. And so keeping your embouchure the same and sort of adjusting your pivot for the pedal tones, it'd help you a bit there.
Just a quick follow-up.
Sure.
I've been trying to go the other way. I've been trying to go from the pedal set
Right.
and up.
Right.
Do you think that's a fallacy? Am I chasing a ghost there?
Not necessarily.
Not necessarily. Again, that's something I don't do much of, but I think that I think you need to kind of experiment going both ways. You know, work on doing both, because we want. Ideally, if you can come out of the pedal tone and play normal tones, then pedal tones start to become easy. But again, some people just can't do pedal tones. You know, like I said, so I mean that's just the other thing to take into account. So yeah. So okay. So just one final thing here. How many of you competed? So okay. How many of you advanced? Sweet. So a few of you. Good. How many of you don't know? So here's the thing about this business, and that you sort of need to realize is that this question I just asked about how many you competed in, lots of hands, how many advanced, fewer hands. That's the nature of this business. And so as you continue in this career, for those of you training to do it, realize that this road to success is not straight. You know, it's pretty bumpy, and it's pretty up and down, and there's sharp hairpin turns and things like that are going to take you away from where you think you're supposed to. And that if you keep doing the work and you keep working, you're basically going to lose more than you win. I took upwards of 60 auditions in my life. I clearly did not win 60 auditions, because if I had won 60 auditions, I'd be like really famous. So, how many of you are kind of bummed you didn't advance? I mean, you can be bummed in terms of like, yeah, I was hoping that I would, but I mean, and that's okay. But like, I'm talking like really bummed, like, you know, inconsolable type bummed. Okay, good. Because here's the thing. Let me ask all of you who've competed: are you better players right now because of the work you did to prepare for national trumpet competition? You're a better overall player than the day you started preparing for national trumpet competition. Everybody's nodding yes. Then you've already won. Okay? That's the great thing about music. It's about how many of you also had a great time being here even though you didn't advance and learned something, met some cool people. That's the great thing about music. Winning is not a music thing. Expressing yourself, you know, meeting people, learning something, that's what music is about. Okay? And that's what's great about the National Trumpet Competition. And that's why I like coming here every year. You know, it's because it's about the students, it's about you guys having an experience that can be a lifelong memory. You know, and I never competed as a student in National Trumpet Competition. I wish I had. You know, I wish I had. So one final thought here to the students. You guys are the future of this business. I say this at every class I ever do anywhere. You're the future of this business. This is the greatest job in the world. I mean, it really is. You know, being a musician and playing your instrument for a living. You know, what did I do today? I got up and I taught a class in front of a bunch of trumpet players, talking about warm-up. Got to be a trumpet geek. I'm going to play my trumpet later. I'm going to do some judging later. I'm going to hear some really young, good trumpet players. That's my day. What did you do? Well, I sat behind a computer screen. Or as a lawyer, I talked to a bunch of angry people who want to sue somebody. Or as a doctor, I, you know, had to operate on a really sick child, you know. Those are what we do is the best thing in the world. Okay, and so don't forget that, okay? Because honestly, there are a lot of people in this business, grumpy people, negative people. You're going to run into them. It's just a fact of life. You will, and I understand in some ways why people in this business, because there are reasons to be grumpy. I get it. Unions, strikes, you know, that orchestra business is under attack, you know, from everything. You know, the arts in general seem like they're under attack from administrations around the world. Still, the future of this is you guys, and it'll survive as long as you guys stay persistent and stay happy. Okay? And so just remember that, because, you know, I can't for the life of me think of something I'd rather do in this world than be a musician. Okay? And when you get your name called one day at the end of a job audition, and you're the name they call as the winner, you're going to feel great. It's the greatest job, and it's the greatest feeling in the world. And so you just got to keep plugging at it, okay? So, and there's people who will help you all over the place, because there's room for great players. There's room. So pick their brains. Okay, thanks everyone. If you need to contact me, I'm easy to find online. Stop in the hall, say hi. Have a good day, everyone. Thanks.